Good morning. We are going to make the ultimate DIY rack for this trailer right here. Kind of keeping it cheap. Stay tuned. Here we go. So I've got a standard 4-inch square bumper. Now, I broke the original bumper because what I did was I took this guy, which wasn't welded on at the time, bolted it onto this guy, and did the stereotypical thing that everybody else does and puts a whole bunch of bikes on it and tweaks the heck out of it, and it actually broke the frame right here, and it was hanging on by a thread, and I'm actually really glad that I caught it before. So what I ended up doing is I took a cutting torch and I actually cut off the old bumper. I took 2 pieces of angle iron, bolted that on here, you can see those bolts, and then I bolted on this bumper, and this bumper, if you can see, is much thicker. This is a 1/4 inch. No, this is 3/8 actually. I can no longer put anything in here because the wall thickness is so thick that the stinky slinky won't actually go in here. So what I want to do is I want to build a square. Going to keep me still under 32 feet long. That's going to bolt onto this bumper right here. And I'm actually going to build it so that it's offset from here to there, and it's going to come up, over and down. I don't want to get it interfering with the ladder. Also going to have to figure out how to mount this spare tire, which is annoying, but I don't know where else to put it. Try to put the tire right between this taillight, the license plate, and the outdoor shower, so that way it's right here, and then the rest of the space will be able to be used to put maybe a generator on it. And then I'm also going to go high with it on the frame. I saw it on Pinterest, and that way I can do like a kayak rack or mount maybe some bikes or something like that here. This thing that I welded on is just not working out because it just hangs out way out here. It just has so much leverage, it's tweaking everything. So what I want to do is I want to get everything tucked up tight, close as possible, so there's not leverage bending everything down. So this branch fell yesterday, so I'm gonna have to clean that up later today. But basically the thing I really want to do is make sure that right now I'm 31 and like 2 inches actually. If you look, this spare tire hangs out so far that basically everyone calls me 32 feet, even though I'm like 31 and like a couple inches. So since everyone's doing that anyways and I have to have a spare tire, I'm just gonna build a rack that makes me exactly 32 feet. So that way I can maximize my space. Throw a comment down below if anyone has a setup like this. My issue that I have is that I cannot get my truck to squat enough. So the trailer is actually just doesn't sit quite level. Anyone actually knows how to solve that, that'd be fantastic. This is a 1 ton and it kind of does not care about this weight. There's not enough tongue weight on this thing. Okay, so I got started. This is the square that I'm going to be building right here. So I'm actually using a whole bunch of scraps so that I have lying around. I did buy a little bit of new steel. So the new stuff I bought 12 gauge. Everything else is either 14 gauge or 16 gauge. But since the base frame is going to be out of the 12 and everything that's going to be support is going to be out of either 14 or 16, I kind of don't care. I had this piece of 2 inch right here. It's all 1 by 1 except for this. I have one piece of 2 inch that I cut, and this is going to be my lip. I'm going to have like a little lip on the whole thing, so it's going to be mostly flat. But I'll have a lip at the end, which I actually kind of like, so that way stuff can't like slide off. I mean, obviously I'm gonna tie everything down, you know, it's just kind of nice. And yes, these are woodworking clamps, but that's all I've got. So I'm gonna just tack weld it like this before I melt everything, and then pull them all off, and should be fine. This is the flattest part of my garage right here. This is where I do all my welding because I don't have a welding table. And I know you're not supposed to weld on concrete, but oh well. So if anyone's curious about my dimensions, this is 21 by 75. And then these guys are going to be on the inside, and those are 19. Let's get started. I think we're all square here. I think I just need to get the welder going. Never actually tried filming myself while doing this, so this is kind of a new project for me. Turn this on. We're hot. Probably maybe 18 volts, maybe 17 and a half. Let's bring the wire feed down a little bit. Okay. All right, so the next plan is to take these 3 pieces here, put them as cross braces in between for the expanded metal to be supported, because you can't have this big of an opening and expanded metal, will just sag really bad. So I'm definitely not the best welder in the world, but I haven't had anything break quite yet. So yeah, I mean, I'll probably grind this down, make this look a little bit better. I got a hook idea that I'm gonna cap this with. Will stick with me and I'll show you that later. this is all done. That one, that's not a very pretty one. It's kind of ugly. All right, so I found this scrap lying around, pretty thick. It's got a hole in it already. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this down a little bit and round it off, and I'm gonna use it like a cap, like right there. So we have a cool little like tie down, and then kind of like cap this all off. I think that's gonna be like a neat little thing. It'll look nice, and it didn't cost me anything, which is the best. Safety glasses, always super important. These are two different thicknesses, so that sucks, but oh well. I've got plastic caps that are gonna go in here just to keep the water out. Yeah, I think that's gonna be not a bad little like freebie hook. That is still hot. Do not touch that. So this is a leftover piece of my bumper that I built. Basically, my plan for this guy is to use this as a template to build a bracket, this to mount. So it's kind of nice. I can use this in the shop here and not have to be out in the 110-degree heat. So here's my plan. Imagine this is upside down and imagine this is my bumper, okay? I'm gonna have this piece overhang on the back side of the trailer 1 inch. And then what I'll do is I'm gonna get some U-bolt straps and put a strap all the way around here. So if you look here, that 1 inch is gonna sit right about there. I bought these guys from Lowe's. Yep, they're about $6 a piece. I think I'm only gonna use 3 of them, so I might return one. I'm gonna have to grind down flush because I wanna make sure that this rack sits as flat as possible on this bumper. Gotta do it. Always use a punch. I put a little punch mark there, and I put a little punch mark there. I'm gonna drill holes here, here, and here. And then I'm gonna make support braces so that this thing doesn't twist on these middle ones. So I've got all my holes drilled. I guess it's time to dry fit this thing, yeah? All right, so it's actually working pretty good. These are upside down right now, but I just wanted to make sure it would fit. So I'm gonna build something to go right here and on that one right there. Put a little piece here, 45 it, kind of give it some strength. All right, cute little boy alert. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take these scraps that are 4 inches, and I have 2 of them that are exactly the same size, so perfect. I'm gonna set them on this line. I scribed this line when I had it up there. I'm gonna set that like right there, weld that, and then that's gonna be my little stopper support. All right, he's my little helper. Yep, I need one of these, okay? Need one of these. So what I'm gonna do then is just mark this and then mark right here, and then that'll be my triangle. Make 2 of those, weld those up, and then moving on to the next part. So I'm gonna cut here and cut there with the bandsaw, and that'll be my 45. It's not the greatest, but it'll work. Holy moly, it's still hot. Okay. Got this all nice and welded up. I used 3/4 inch tubing instead of 1 inch tubing here, just because I had it. Okay, so I'm gonna make a cross piece that's 73 7/8, and then I'm gonna come down, and this is gonna be 5 foot. This is gonna be my arch, basically, that attaches to the rack, which is right here. If you look at a profile, it's just gonna be a big L, and then it's gonna have these little 45s like that. I'm gonna have to probably 45 something here. Load some stuff up here, and it's all gonna be supported on the frame point, which is like right here. After I cut the piece, I realized I needed to be 72 7/8, not 73. All right, so I've got this new A-frame. This is the A-frame here. I'm calling it an A-frame. Okay, I know it's not like an actual A, but in my industry that I work in, this would be considered like an A-frame or goalposts. Everything feels pretty dang square. I'm using over here, this is the actual rack, but I'm using it to kind of hold it in square, and then I've put the welder in the middle because I'm in a really unorganized garage right now. I'm gonna tack this all up, start welding this, and then figure out how I'm gonna attach it to this rack. I'm realizing as I'm putting this all together that I might have a flaw in my design. Okay, so I'm actually still using this frame to keep it all clamped. There's my L bracket and there's the 2 clamps. Just making sure that it stays as square as possible. And then I'm using my little like workbench table to hold it upright because it's way easier to weld up here. I'm gonna offset this bar about 3 1/4 inches on both sides. And then when I put the 45s, that'll keep it from flexing. So my concern is that this backside is so close to the fiberglass back. I don't want any vibrations to hit the fiberglass back, so I want to have enough space for clearance if this thing moves at all. If I have to put some like rubber grommets or something to stabilize it, I will. But I think this is going to give me plenty of clearance to not actually hit the RV. I know that I don't want to put a ton of weight up high. This is more for just stabilization. Most of the load bearing's got to be down here. All right, so I've got it all clamped. When I lined everything up, it was only off about 1/4 inch down here on both sides. So I feel like it's about as square as I'm gonna be able to get it. So far, this has been going pretty smoothly, which, you know, something like this could totally go awry. Seems really, really square. As square as I can probably get it. I'm really happy with it so far. Now I gotta build some cross braces to get the wiggle out. There's still some wiggle. I stood on it and then wiggled it a little bit. That's way too much wiggle that we could have on something like this. So cutting these like custom angles is probably one of the hardest things you do in metalworking, but you gotta have a bandsaw like that because the chop saw just you can't get an angle like this on a chop saw. And even this is still not perfect, but should be pretty close. So I jumped ahead a little bit. I started with these E-track guys. I'm gonna mount E-track to this rack so that way I have like solid tie down points. All right, so now we've got all of our tie downs welded on. So the next step is I'm going to figure out how to attach this spare tire. I'm going to try to use this existing bracket and make sure that that tire is centered between the license plate and the shower. I'm going to go 31 1/4 off this center point, and I want that tire to sit right there. All right, so what I think I'm going to do is use this existing bracket so that it could actually still move if needed be. I feel like I don't have to really figure anything else out. That seems like the easiest way, so I'm just going to pull that bolt off right there. You stole my blue Sharpie. Where'd you put my blue Sharpie? Here's my black Sharpie. I guess this will work. I ground off all of this old paint because what I think I'm gonna do, I'm gonna weld these on, give it 3 additional inches. Actually, it's gonna go about like there. And then I'm gonna weld this to the center point, which is right there. I welded on these brackets here. So I did try to see if this guy could swing 100%. It cannot. So I'm still gonna just use this bracket because it's already figured out and it's done and it's cheap, but I'm not gonna really get much of the motion with this thing, which is unfortunate. I think I'm gonna have to add a cross brace because that tire is heavy. I don't want it to shake too much. I mean, it's gonna shake, but I think I'm gonna have to like support it, unfortunately. This holds my own weight. Put a support bracket underneath here. You can see, I really don't want that thing wiggling. And then the nice thing is all this weight is now sitting directly square over the bumper.
So the finished product.
It's not done.
It is not done.
It needs to be painted and it needs a floor. All right. It's flexing a little bit, but still pretty solid. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. I think this is pretty good. What do you think?
Out of a 10?
Yeah.
Probably like a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. All right, well,
It looks pretty good, but like it doesn't have the thing.
Yeah, it's going to. We're gonna do that right now.
It would become an 8 out of 10 if it had the if it was painted and it had the bottom.
All right, let's do that then. This is called expanded metal.
We're gonna cut the expanded metal to fit the size of this.
Got a whole bunch of scraps left over from a project that I would like to use. Do it on the cheap, not have to buy any cheap.
Okay, so we took all the scraps out and we got this one big piece that might
Do most of it.
do most of it. We also have this other big piece that might kind of do it too.
So that'll do that. From here to here, it's 37 inches roughly. I'm gonna cut.
You need one of those. You need one of these. Something similar to that.
There's a seam right here. All right, so I've notched out and cut these two pieces of expanded metal. I'm gonna have a seam right here, but I don't really care. I'll just weld it up and call it good. Definitely had to notch around all these bolts and these posts because I definitely don't want this sheet, the expanded metal interfering. All right, so I've got it all clamped down flat and then we're gonna weld it. Yeah, sounds good? Let's do it.
Do it.
Yeah, woo! Got it welded all the way around. I didn't weld up here because it's not really laying against anything, but I'm not really worried about it. Like when I stand on it, it is not flexing at all. I think it's gonna be good. Nice and solid platform. What do you think?
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, all right. Huxley, what are you doing? Getting wet?
Now we're going to paint it.
So this is called primer.
So I just came back outside and I heard that my dad ran out of paint. I mean, look how nice that was.
All right, guys. Well, it's all nice and painted. I'm really happy with the way it's turning out so far. I am gonna go eat some dinner and let it dry, and then in about an hour, I'm gonna see if I can mount it to the back of the RV. That would be wonderful before I run out of daylight or I run out of gas. Getting tired. It's been a 2-day project. It's a lot. I'm gonna plan on putting some pool noodles up here and wrapping them. I think I'm gonna get a milk crate and either zip tie it or strap it down, put foam in it. That way I can put a kayak right here and it will just be only touching foam. But also I can put a generator on it, and then if I'm not doing kayaks, if I'm doing something else, I wanted something that's very multi-purpose. I know I've got a spare tire to deal with that's right here, which sucks, but can't not have a spare tire. So, all right, I'll check back with you guys in a minute.
Okay, so now we're getting ready to put the thing on. We also put cap on there so it doesn't look bad.
I got a hodgepodge of washers and some lock nuts, and then I also am going to do blue Loctite on everything, make it nice and tight. And we're going to put that back on and put that guy back on. Rip.
This is supposed to go right here.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid.
Darcy, how do you like the rack?
Bigger.
What number do you give the rack being made?
I give it a 9 out of 10. I like it a lot.
So, this video was supposed to end right about here, but it didn't because I ran into a problem with my rack. Let me show you. All right, so when I built this rack, the point of it was to carry a whole bunch of things because I wanted to carry like a generator and the kayaks and whatnot. But here's my issue. These kayaks go up so high, and I did not realize that my biggest issue was gonna be wind resistance above the RV. So the problem I ran into is that when I did my test and I loaded everything up, it worked great except for the fact the top of the kayaks literally started pushing back And it was just too much leverage for the only single point at the bottom. So we had to go to Tahoe, and I had to fix this the day before we left. So it's not even painted. And I didn't film it, which I'm sorry, but let me show you what I did. So I took a piece of 3-inch, 1/8" steel L bracket, welded it here. Obviously I'm gonna have to clean that up. And then I took a bolt and I bolted it all the way through this rod. Now this is a 2x2 1/8" thick steel at exactly 8 feet. It goes all the way up. And then I welded 2 L brackets to this bar, nipped them off, and bolted that up. And then I took some scraps and welded this 2T section right here, and then strapped on a Harbor Freight knee pad, which was $6, and that way it sits right against the fiberglass, but it's against an 1.5 inch thick pad. And then up here, I bought a Harbor Freight D-ring and I welded that straight to the bar. And then finally, I took a synthetic winch cable, which, talking to my sailor friends, that was the best thing to get. This is the Harbor Freight $35 synthetic winch cable replacement for their steel cable on their Badland. Hooked it up on that D-ring, brought it all the way across. When I designed this, I made sure that that cable doesn't interfere with the air conditioner or any of the vents. It's actually like a free run all the way down. So then I took foam so that the cable's actually not rubbing or running or touching anything on the roof, and that comes up over. Right here we did a bowline knot, and then this is a ratchet strap. I don't know if you can see that, but it ratchet straps all the way to the front of the hitch right here. And then I also, instead of hooking this, I used one of these chain links that you can buy at Harbor Freight for cheap. They're really strong. I just did not want this getting loose for any reason. The only thing that's hooked is right here. And now that thing does not move. We did a test on the freeway and it does not blow at all. It is super safe and secure, and we're here in Tahoe right now, so obviously it worked. Apologize that I didn't get a little more detailed on how I did that. If you guys care, I can do a breakdown a little bit later on a separate video and show you guys. So I guess the best test, it passed, because we drove 6.5, almost 7 hours to Tahoe, and man, let me tell you, it was so strong and safe. I loved it. I get really paranoid. I've had a couple very bad catastrophes on the freeway happen before, so I'm a little paranoid about safety. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you're fine, don't worry about it." But I couldn't risk my family and my kids and you know, the RV and all that stuff. I called my friend who's a sailor and I asked him, and he explained to me that the wind resistance at 65 miles an hour could be really strong. He knew the math, and he told me, but he was just like, "Dude, safety it up." It came out great. I'm really, really, really happy with how this rack turned out, and I'm sorry that it kind of got a little disjointed. We were gonna do an end of the video after I tested it. The test failed terribly, and so I had to make some modifications last minute before I went. So it does work, but basically I just took a post and ran it all the way up, put a pad against it, rested that against the back of the fiberglass RV, and then ran a cable all the way across the top to the front just to keep it sucked up, just so that any wind resistance or anything, it would have some strength. I also bolted it because I didn't want to have that big post on it all the time, because I don't want to always have to have that cable there. It's only when I'm going to transport the kayaks. The rest of the time, for like generators, small stuff, bikes, not going to need to worry about that. It's totally fine, super strong, doesn't really bounce around a little bit. It's really just because those kayaks are so tall, the wind resistance and the amount of leverage, it didn't feel safe. Anyways, those are the modifications. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It got really long, it was a little complicated, and it's really kind of detailed. So if you like it, smash the subscribe button, press the like button. We're gonna do some videos about boondocking in Tahoe and just how beautiful it is out here. We love it. I'll see you on the next video. Later.